Discover the Pygmies of Africa. Hello explorers, welcome to another interesting video brought to you by Displore, and in this video, we will take a look at the Pygmies of Africa. Short people known as Pygmies are scattered across equatorial Africa, where they speak various languages, inhabit different types of forest, and hunt and gather food in diverse ways. Despite their cultural variety, a new study shows that the Pygmies of Western Central Africa descended from an ancestral population that survived intact until 2,800 years ago, when farmers invaded the Pygmies' territories and split them apart. The origins of Pygmies have long been a mystery. Researchers have debated whether African Pygmies inherited their height from a common ancestor they shared long ago, or whether shortness evolved independently in each tribe because it was advantageous for life in the forest. For instance, getting enough calories to grow taller might have been more challenging than in more open terrain. If you're new here, welcome. Before we continue on this interesting video on African Pygmies, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any of our new uploads. Growth and genotype of the African Pygmies. Pygmies grow up just like other modern humans until they become teenagers, where they fail to undergo a final adolescent growth spurt. Although humans have lived in the forests of Western Central Africa for at least 30,000 years, there are no fossils to show whether the ancestral population was short to begin with, or whether the trait evolved more recently in different groups. And still, DNA studies haven't resolved the question. In the largest study of Western Central Africa to date, anthropological genetist Paul Verdu of the Musée de l'Homme, or Museum of Man, in Paris and colleagues analyzed DNA from 9 pygmy groups and 12 neighboring groups of people who were of normal height. The researchers reported that although the Pygmies have a lot of genetic diversity, they probably can trace their ancestry to the same population that could have lived as recently as 2,800 years ago, says Verdu. In the most likely scenario, a small group of short people split off from non-pygmy populations between 50,000 and 90,000 years ago. The founding group of pygmy ancestors was fairly cohesive, with tribes interbreeding until 2,800 years ago. At that point, taller Bantu-speaking farmers probably swept across Central Africa and pushed them apart. Once the pygmy group split, they stopped interbreeding. As a result, each group evolved separately. The study also detected an unusual pattern. More DNA flows from non-pygmy neighbors into pygmy populations than the other way around. This is curious because pygmy women tend to marry non-pygmy men and move to their homes, not vice versa. But these marriages often fail because of discrimination against low-status pygmy wives, Verdu says, and the pygmy women return to their pygmy groups with children who have DNA from their taller fathers. Location and estimated population of the African Pygmies. Residing in the forest areas of Central and West Africa, and known as the shortest people in the world, Pygmies are still seeking to preserve their culture of hunting that has existed for thousands of years. The Europeans referred to the local tribesmen as Pygmies, a word meaning dwarf in Greek with a mythological reference, for they had an average height of 120 centimeters or 3.9 feet. There are currently around 120,000 Pygmies in the world, with most of them living in Cameroon's forest region close to the Atlantic Ocean. Small-scale Pygmy communities also exist in countries such as Rwanda, Burundi, Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, Gabon, and Angola. Preservation of 5,000-year-old hunting culture. Pygmies have no desire to abandon their primitive way of living and hunting culture of over 5,000 years ago, but the rainforests inhabited by the Pygmies have been rapidly depleting due to timber production and mining. Their habitats are getting narrower gradually, and they are not allowed to reside in forests designated as national parks. The Cameroon government has failed to successfully implement its integration policies aimed at settling Pygmies into a sedentary lifestyle. While they do not like to interact with foreigners and get their photographs taken, the Pygmies lead a different lifestyle in comparison with the settled peoples of continental Africa. Still living as an ancient people, the Pygmies spend most of their time hunting deep in the forest and collecting fruits along with herbs. They do not use money and instead use a system of bartering, in which they trade their possessions. These people often change location in a bid to find animals for hunting, and they are armed with wooden or stone arrows, spears and machetes to kill monkeys, antelopes, gazelles, and elephants. Among their main source of food are the wild fruit trees that they consume, wild plums known as safu, as well as wild mangoes and nuts on a daily basis. Ziafur, the head of a pygmy family living in Bikwiti in Jule, located 70 kilometers from the city of Kribi in western Cameroon, told an Anadolu agency they wanted to continue their lives hunting fish and animals while collecting fruit in the forest, but they were concerned that some people had begun to cut down trees in their forest and sought to take over their homes. Abumyem Amura, the eldest member of a pygmy family living in Bikwiti in Jule, said he was born in this forest and wanted to die there, and the forest provided everything they needed. Health and medicine. Since they are not acknowledged as citizens, the pygmies do not have access to social services, particularly health. Instead, they use leaves, tree barks, or wild plants for treatment. Moringa trees, known as miracle trees, are common in the rainforest inhabited by the pygmies and are used for the treatment of high blood pressure. Also, the cream produced from Nlua plants is used against poisoning, and they use the syrup obtained by boiling the bark of the Apgazoa tree, also known as the elephant tree, for the treatment of stomach problems and ailments experienced during pregnancy. As for the treatment of bone and joint pain, they heat the bark of the Azubi tree and apply it by massaging the treatment area. Housing. The pygmies reside in houses built from the branches of Nzon and Bunde trees and broadleaves, which are common in the forest. As they change location quite often, they build these houses in about an hour. After a day of hunting and collecting fruits, they gather by a bonfire at night and listen to the advice of elders and dance, a culture quite common with other races. Belief of afterlife. While preserving their belief in animism in general, pygmies believe that everything in nature has a spirit, as well as material existence, and each object is controlled by a spirit. As they believe in the afterlife and the spirits of their ancestors present everywhere, they hide their deceased in tree barks or caves. In addition, it is possible to come across Muslims and Christians among the pygmies who have come into contact with settled life in recent years. All pygmies are hunters and gatherers, practicing neither agriculture nor cattle raising, and most maintain close symbiotic relations with other groups in their region. Consequently, most have lost their indigenous languages and adopted that of their neighbors. The famous pygmy groups of the Ituri forest in Congo present an example of a culture unchanging as a result of acculturation with neighboring peoples. Known collectively as the Bambuti or Mbuti, they are probably the earliest inhabitants of the region. Another well-known pygmy group in Equatorial Africa are the Twa or Batwa, who live in the high mountains and plains around Lake Kivu in Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi, in symbiosis with the pastoral Tutsi, the agricultural Hutu, and other tribes. Many specialize in pottery, which they market, others hunt, and some act as court musicians in attendance. Westward in the marshes south of the Congo River is a large group of Twa and Batwa, who, like the Twa, have adopted much of the culture and language of neighboring tribes. They live largely by fishing and trapping, north of the Congo, in the forest west of the Ubangi River at the Babinga. This is also an acculturated group of pygmies, but perhaps because of similarity of habitat, they share more cultural characteristics with the pygmies of the Ituri forest than do the Twa and Twa. There you have it, explorers. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our next upload.